Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This is the Wednesday night edition with two of the OGs, Owen and Newt. Guys, did we have any trade takebacks today? Because yesterday, we were podcasting, all of a sudden trade takebacks, and it kind of put me in a blender a little bit. But
put you in a blender. Put Las Vegas in a pretty big blender. I didn't even see this. Are they over? Are they over the cap now?
I don't think they are.
I actually think the Raiders still have the cap space to absorb the contract.
That's insane.
So. We all agree, the Ravens definitely colluded the hell out of that, right? There wasn't actually something wrong with medicals.
I don't know if it was collusion or what, but everything I've heard is the medicals are what they were promised to be. Yes, there was damage to the knee, but that was disclosed.
Yeah, they weren't blindsided by anything. They just
Correct.
got buyer's remorse, or they heard back from Hendrickson's agent, and they were like, let's pull the plug on that one.
It does feel like buyer's remorse, honestly.
Can I say?
Yeah.
I have a take about the worst free agency signing so far this offseason, and it's going to be not the most popular because I think people universally like this signing. I think the Kenneth Walker deal was.
Owen,
that was the greatest timing possible.
This happened last night too, and
man needs to get a hold of his technology.
Yeah. Last night we blamed it on the cat. I don't know if we can do that 2 straight nights, but
that's so funny. I hear Jim, while Owen gets back, I got a question for you. What did you think about the Rashawn Gary trade to the Cowboys?
So my initial reaction was the Cowboys are just saying F all the draft except for the first round picks. But then I realized it was a 2027 first and not
Correct.
A 2026, right? That was Correct. My first reaction is Dallas is just getting rid of picks, but then Dallas acquired a 3rd round pick today. So, but ultimately, I think the way I'm looking at it is actually very similar to how I saw the DJ Moore trade, in that if you think like Dallas thinks that you can win next year, you trade a draft pick for a starter.
That's fair.
Because a 4th round pick isn't starting for you this year.
Well, it's not starting for him next year either. With the 2027 is kind of the piece of it that I think makes it a little more palpable because what do you say? A future pick you drop back around for value?
Correct.
That's kind of the consensus. So, Owen, Kenneth Walker's deal was
the Chiefs demons that they cohort with to win every year got to me before I could finish it. I think that was a terrible signing. I hated that signing.
I didn't even see the details of it. I just saw he went to the Titans. How much did he what was the contract?
I think it's north of 13-14 million per. And the whole idea is that
I thought it was $8 million per.
Hold on, I'll
8 would be a steal.
It was 3 years, 45 million.
I actually thought it was a reasonable deal.
I thought Walker had a shot to be the MVP of the Super Bowl. Honest to God, the first 3 quarters.
3 years, 43 million. So an average salary of 14.35, which that's not the true cap hit number, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, you talk about AAV for a contract. That's a big ass contract. Was that second only to McCaffrey?
I think Saquon's higher than that as well.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Saquon's. I forgot.
So, Owen, I'm using the Jerry Ostrowski math, which is look at the guaranteed money, don't look at the AAV.
Yeah, the AAV is a fun number to
talk
about, though,
So
Jim.
it's 3 years, $29 million guaranteed, which is very reasonable.
That's a lot of money for a running back, though.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Well, but I'm looking at that. That's a notch under James Cook, and I don't know the James Cook's deal. I don't remember the guarantees, but I was looking at that saying, okay, if it is 15 mil AAV, which is what 3 years 45 comes out to, I agree with you. That's expensive, but depending upon the structure, that 3rd year may have no guarantees. All that guaranteed.
I think McCaffrey and Saquon are probably built the same way. I know that there are unique deals here and there, but I would imagine that Saquon's has, a 60% guarantee or whatever it kind of
Yeah.
breaks out to, similar to that.
Ken Walker
Well-
also split a ton of carries with Zach Charbonnet, but I get the thought process, right? The Chiefs have been facing 2 high safety shells ever since Mahomes got good, and their offense has struggled because of it. They haven't had the versatility because they keep trotting out Isaiah Pacheco on a broken leg and 30-year-old Kareem Hunt. That they need someone back there to make the defense be honest. I think he could have go Jeremiah Love at 9 and had got the same result on a rookie contract as opposed to paying an older running back a contract which probably has some heftier guarantees and heftier money. But now they've kind of opened themselves up to attack different positions at 9, potentially wide receiver to complement that, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Another early wide receiver pick from Kansas City. What's new?
Yeah, I'm going to hate it when they get Jordan Tyson. I'm going to punch my screen.
Do we want to use that to lead into the episode?
Let's get this thing going. So we are going to be doing top 10 wide receivers, right, Newt?
Way to get me in the middle of a chug.
Yep,
That is correct.
So, and it feels like you and I have talked about wide receivers in podcasts a few times. Who's your wide receiver 10? Because I already forgot.
Yeah, it feels like we may have a specific reason why we would have talked about wide receivers quite a bit. But my wide receiver 10 is actually my top. So grade wise is my highest third round grade I have. So after this will be all second round grades and first round grades.
Me as well. That's fun.
There you go. It's a good class. I really think if you have wide receiver needs, you've got a lot of flavors and a lot of high value here. But my number 10 is going to be Ted Hurst, a wide receiver from Georgia State. My wide receiver number 10.
I have Ted Hurst as wide receiver 14,
Okay.
and I've got a day 3 grade on him, an early day 3 grade on him for sure. He's definitely going to be a top 20 wide receiver for me when it's all said and done. But I'll let you go ahead and break him down.
Yeah, he was a freak of nature at Georgia State. Now, it's a lower level competition, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I did watch the games against Ole Miss and some of the higher P4 competition he was facing. And it seemed like the speed and the athleticism we saw at the Combine translated across competition levels. I don't think it was as game-breaking as it was at the G5, but in P4 he still was running away from DBs, and despite being 6'4" and 200+ pounds, which that second number is actually where I was really kind of hung up with him, and I should be relatively higher. I had a question today from somebody who in our Buffalo Bills Discord, they all come to me kind of asking me draft questions, and they were asking me like some of my criteria about rankings, and I'm like, I have a film grade, but I have a lot of vibes based like analysis as well, and I think Ted Hurst is pretty much is high up on the vibes because a lot of what I graded him on film was that like he struggled with physicality a lot, whether it was going over the middle of the field, at the point of contact, with catching in traffic, not so much going above the rim, but catching in traffic specifically where he's going to meet a hit there. I felt like he struggled a lot and even like getting rerouted during his routes by physical corners. So I think him being at like, he was probably playing at like 180, 190 in Georgia State. My thing was like, I think he's good, but and he definitely needs to add weight. So there was going to be some upside there if he could do that. And then he came in at 200 pounds at the Senior Bowl. And at the Combine, and looked just as fluid and just as good at movement. So I'm hoping that's another 10 pounds of muscle and or just good weight that he can contribute to the game and already answer those question marks I have for him. So I'm not going to bump up his film grade at all, but the vibes are sky high with Ted Hurst.
Yeah, I mean, he came was 208 for the Combine. And I thought he balled out at the Senior Bowl. I don't want to like add on too much because, like I said, I think he did a good job with him, and I lower on him. But I think that with him and kind of where I see him is like a guy. The start and stop ability from him at that height, I think, is absolutely incredible. I just think that everything from him, when you look, it's so exaggerated. Where he's got like these massive cuts left and right, whether it's in his route or when he's got the ball in his hand. I thought one of the stats was the craziest for him was he had a 0.25 missed tackles forced per attempt, which is ridiculous for a wide receiver. But his yards after contact per route or per reception was like 5.3, which is okay. Like that's a good mark, but it just didn't quite match. And I think he's really good at making guys miss in a box, but he just doesn't have that explosion. Like he's able to gear down really well and stop on a dime. But I kind of saw it with his release off the line. It's just everything seemed a little bit lower. And I know he tested really well, had great marks for his 40 at a or his vert was a 38 and a half. He had a good time for his 40. So I liked him. I didn't love him, but I can see a lot of the things you're saying. My number 10 was, and I hate to say this, Elijah Surratt, after I've kind of gone back and done a couple more looks at him. I still love him. He's a guy that if I could give a guy vibe bumps as you're calling it, I'd definitely give him a handful more vibe bumps because he's a guy that I think is a really good football player. God, I always, every time I'm like on the spot and I need to remember a name from last year, I never can. Who is the wide receiver? Pat from Illinois. Pat Bryant. Elijah Surratt reminds me of Pat Bryant, where it's a guy you can put out there. He's not a super athlete, but he is just very refined. He understands how to win, and he's really nuanced in a lot of the things that he does. I think he is a souped-up version of Pat Bryant, where he's able to really excel in higher-level competition. Some of the things that I wrote about him is he's extremely nuanced when it comes to like the small things that you don't necessarily like get excited about or count, but like the subtle push off at the top of the route where he's not going to get called for offensive pass interference, but he uses that to create separation because he's just not able to create separation as a route runner. And that's kind of where I keep going back and forth on like my separation score. Like he's not doing it naturally, but he's so damn good about like just that little push off where he can kind of create that at the top of the route. And I get really excited about it. So I like Elijah Surratt. He's got a phenomenal work ethic. He's a really strong player, built really well for the position, 6'2 and a half, 210, 31-inch arms. And so there's so many things I like about his game. I just think that the separation, especially when you look at one of the stats that, like, because I don't have the fancy PFF Ultimate separation scores, one of the things I kind of did in lieu of that was I did contested targets percentage. So basically the number of targets that he has that are considered contested. And he is at 34 and a half, meaning 1/3 of the targets that go his way are considered contested by PFF, which is an enormous number. If you're above 20, for me, that's high. Above 30 is ridiculous. And so that's kind of one of the things that shows him, like he's going to live in coverage. He's got great hands. He's got great contested catch ability. But it's only going to get more challenging to create separation at the NFL. Players are just going to keep getting stronger. And it does give me some pause and some reservation. So I got Elijah Surratt at 10.
So I have a question, and this may open up a wound. But Newt, I'm going to ask it to you anyway. In Surratt for you is a early third or late second round grade?
So he's an early third, late second. He is number 57 on my big board.
Okay. So if Surratt goes in round 2 and Egbuka goes in round 1, what makes those two receivers different?
Egbuka is a better athlete. Egbuka is a better athlete than Surratt. If Owen wants to laugh about that, he can. But Egbuka is he's just a better athlete than Surratt. He's able to win in so many more ways. And I think that as a route runner, he's more refined. He has kind of an understanding of how to utilize head fakes. And he was just even like I'm talking about Surratt as a very like pro ready in terms of like his technical approach to the game. But Egbuka was even just a little bit more. And I think it's just a product of the Ohio State system. But
there was a draft professor that said if Egbuka can go in round 1, so can Surratt.
That's fair.
But like I think the athlete aspect of that evaluation didn't get mentioned enough. But actually, so Owen, where do you have Surratt? You have him higher than 10?
Yeah, he's in this bracket we're going to talk about, but he's definitely higher than 10 for me.
Okay.
Definitely. I was going to say he's at 8, and I'm going to be like, definitely.
So Owen, who's your number 9?
My number 9 wide receiver. So again, we're dipping into the second round grades now. So late second, early third, and this one is we talk about Ted Hurst being high vibes. This guy's kind of on the lower end of the vibes right now, but his film is good, and it's gonna be Chris Bell, the wide receiver from Louisville.
I've got Chris Bell at 8, so like we're very close.
Yeah, and like I said, the film grade and the upside with the athleticism, the way he's built like a running back,
Yep.
he's 220 plus and can run the way he does. I will mention this every chance I get. If you're ever gonna want to watch a Chris Bell game, watch the game against the national championship losing defense in Miami, where he just split two safeties,
Yeah.
going down the field at 220 plus pounds, and those guys are sub 200 pounds.
He is
To-
thick, man.
He's a big boy. And I think a lot of what's going to be the reserve is going to be the fact that he didn't run a lot of a wide, expansive route tree. He's definitely going to be raw. And he came out of the slot a lot because, again, he's still very raw when it comes to just playing wide receiver. Not a lot of technique when it comes to his released off coverage or his ability to create separation with route running. But he is a big, thick dude who has tons of speed for size, has a crazy ball carrier vision, and ability to transition from receiver to runner really well. And what differentiates him from, like, gosh, I'm trying to remember that wide receiver the Packers drafted in the 3rd round from Clemson, who was like that slot running back type dude. He's ended up going to like the UFL, the XFL a few years. It was like the 2020 draft, I think. I can't remember what his name was.
I'm
Nobody doesn't
struggling.
remember either. But a guy who just is like, okay, so you get the ball in his hands and he does running back things, but at wide receiver, he does some stuff outside of route running, like using his physicality at the stem to create separation. Like he does create ways to do that, which make you kind of excited. And he did start to show some improvement before he tore his ACL towards the end of the season there. So you're not going to have him for the majority of this rookie season, which is why the vibes are kind of down. He's already kind of raw. So you're drafting a dude who probably needed time to cook and is not going to have time to learn on with experience until later into his rookie year. So he's going to be like a 2 to 3 year projection. But you're one of these teams that wants to suck next year. Draft him in the 2nd round, and then you're basically redshirting him, and then you're getting a guy that has some high upside moving forward to be a receiver that doesn't actively help you win games this upcoming season.
No, I agree with that. I think that this is like kind of where, like, I'll put my board out there, and I still struggle with it a little bit because, like, if I'm a GM and my knee jerk reaction is to take Surratt over Chris Bell because I like Surratt I think a little bit better. And I've got to see, like, in my grading, why is it that I like Surratt better? And I think it's just because he's a little bit more polished and you see those things. But everything you said, I think I'm spot on with the thick build, the ability for him to take the top off the defense. He's a really great athlete. You take a look at, obviously, the injury is really tough for him when it happened versus SMU super late. I think it was the last game, wasn't it? Last game of the season?
Yeah, it was like November, December, somewhere around there where he was knocked out. He won't be back to like a playoff push if you made it there.
Right.
I don't think he would even make that.
So I really do like him. I just think that there are some things with him that he definitely isn't like. I think it is the unpolished nature of it. I think you hit it nail on the head with like he's not a diverse route runner. Like he's going to kind of have a limited route tree, and that's going to be something that does hurt him when you start looking at him as a prospect.
So I have a couple questions here on Chris Bell. So Owen, your grading system takes into account the fact that he's injured, right? So he's where he is on your board because he's injured, and if that gets removed, he would move up your board, right?
No, so my grading system is strictly off of film. That's why I said like the vibes thing is low. So like purely is like 2nd round grade, wide receiver 9. If he wasn't injured and like it wouldn't change much for me really, unless he went to like one that was able to participate in some of these All-Star games and show off a more expansive route tree and like maybe these one-on-ones or some of these combine routes. That's when I would start maybe factoring that a bit more because I think what affects him mostly with the injury is just that he's not going to be available to start learning on the job as quickly. So it maybe factors in here or there because I don't think there's the upside of early on starting, but I do think that is not something I will immediately factor in, which is something I'm working on implementing. There's only like one position, which is running back, that really factors that in.
So if we were to look at like players like Revel and I think Will Johnson, they both went in round 2 last year, if memory serves me correctly.
Revel went 3.
So Revel was 3, Johnson was 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they both, like, they couldn't even do combine, but they both played last year, right?
No, Revel played like 2 games and then he tore his ACL. Will Johnson was.
No, I meant played in the NFL.
Oh yeah, but Revel had to come in about halfway through the season.
Right. So the NFL was valuing that because Revel was a first round grade until he got hurt. So the reason I'm saying that is that actually it sounds like the third round evaluation on Chris Bell sounds accurate for how the NFL valued similar injuries at a similar position last year.
I mean, I think you take a look at it, like it always depends on the player. Like Jameson Williams went 13 overall, and he like was guaranteed because he got injured in the college football playoffs. He was basically guaranteed to not play his first season, and he still went 13 overall. And there's a lot of things to his game, like the speed of him that obviously was able to set him apart. But I think it's a decent call when you look at those guys. I think the Will Johnson thing was a little weird, just because I know that was more medicals than like a true injury. But the Revel thing, I think that's spot on. Where like we were talking about him as a day one player, and I'm still floored that he fell to round 3. But like it could just very well be that where you're looking at a guy because he's not available for the first half of his rookie season that is going to change the way a team views him.
So we have 2 questions in the chat. So we did the Crosby trade at the top of the show. At least I think that was the top of the show and not backstage. But
I think it was, yeah.
But I would just say there was no Crosby trade, so we have no thoughts on it. No, that's a hell of a cop-out. No, I think the Ravens got cold feet.
I think so.
Yep. And then, when you want to, like, this isn't my favorite question from Anthony. He's asked it 2 different ways in the chat, but I still don't think this is worded well. But thoughts on the question?
Yeah, I think the size component, it does factor in a little bit, but like there are other elements. I think for me, what I look for a lot is going to be the release package and how they deal with contact. Like Casey Concepcion is a smaller receiver. Like he's north of 6 foot now, but he came taller than I thought he would. But like, I wouldn't ever worry about him being on the outside anymore because I did think the tape showed that he could be an outside receiver. Whereas Brennan Thompson is small as well. He's 5'9", and he played a ton on the outside in college. He gets blown over by like a leaf in the wind where he's getting knocked around by press man coverage or even guys just getting hands on him at the stem where he's losing balance. So there are guys like that. I think a good option for this would be like Chris Hilton from LSU. It would be more of a slot guy despite being 6'2". I would even argue that like a Deion Burks, who's like a slot receiver because he is that height, he's got enough like dog in him to fight off some outside press. Like if he was caught on the outside in press situations, I don't think he'd be as big of a struggle as like a Chris Hilton would be, despite having the size advantage.
Deion Burks is a mean son of a bitch.
Anthony,
Yes.
That was kind of the point, is that it's not the size that defines whether they're boundary or they're slot. It's how they react, as Owen said, to physical contact, because Deion Burks has the size profile for a slot, but he has the game to play and win outside. And we've covered that on this channel numerous times. Owen and Randall did a really good wide receiver podcast where that came up. I think it was Tuesday last week. Mm-hmm. So there's other podcasts where we've dove in to that a little bit.
Deion Burks, by the way, just barely missed my list.
Say again?
Yeah.
I said Deion Burks just barely missed my list. He was like number 12 on this list for me. Also, Anthony's pointing it out in the chat. Amari Rodgers was the receiver I was trying to think of earlier when I was talking about Chris Bell for the Packers.
I try to forget that.
Who is your next wide receiver?
This is a guy that I liked him a lot over the summer. I still haven't kind of fallen off him that much. I think there's just been guys that have popped maybe a little bit more in front of him. And that's Antonio Williams out of Clemson. He is my wide receiver 9. I think of him, and speaking of slot guys, I think he's going to end up being a slot player, but I think he's a little more versatile with his game. I think that there are elements to him where kind of going back to the release, I think he's got one of the best releases in college football currently, and I think that his explosion off the line and his ability to stay clean with his athletic burst off the line, not even necessarily like his release package itself and his initiation with contact is going to be something that keeps him a little more flexible. But for me, when you take a look at Antonio Williams, you see a guy that is able to stretch the field, keep defenses honest, and he's also then able to work underneath. I think he wins really well in intermediate routes. I think that his ability to also be a move player behind the line, whether it's on jet sweeps, whether it's putting a player in motion. I think that he's really valuable with that because he's able to be even more dynamic in the backfield. I think he could, like I said, when playing outside, I think he could be a really good Z receiver for you and kind of create some unique situations. And then I think also when you take a look at him, he's got really soft hands, and for being a guy that's under 6 foot, 5'11" and a half, he wins really well in contested catch situations. He's a guy that's able to create pretty good separation. He's a phenomenal athlete. But for me, I think that he's going to be a guy that is able to also win when it's a little bit compact and you're having to kind of catch in traffic. I think that with Clemson and this year, and I say it for every Clemson player, that I think that their stock is a little hurt by the way that Clemson performed this year. I think that he's not like this elite separator that the athleticism might lean itself to. I think that he does struggle maybe a little bit with some play strength, not necessarily in terms of like the release, but he can if a stronger defensive back gets hands on him, which is why I think I see him sliding in a little bit more at the slot. I do think if that's going to be his home, he's going to have to become a little bit more nuanced as a blocker as well. But he's my number 9 receiver, like a late second round grade on him.
It's Jeremy White's favorite receiver for the Buffalo Bills.
Nice.
That was sarcasm, by the way.
That was complete sarcasm.
Oh, okay.
He thought he would be a Khalil Shakir clone, and how much of that slot evaluation is because that's how Clemson used him versus that's what the ability of the wide receiver is.
He was I think he was used in the slot because of his lack of I think it's more so because of his lack of play strength than anything. And I think there is, it's not the only thing, but I think there is a size component to it as well. That's just kind of where I see him. I'm not saying that he can't. Like I said, I think he could be a phenomenal Z receiver for you. But I don't see him as a true X. I don't see him as your number 1 wide receiver.
Well, and so I think that while I think the grades on Williams are consistent, I think nearly everybody that podcast has Antonio Williams where you have him, but the scouting report on how he would be used at the NFL level doesn't match. So, Owen, is Antonio Williams going to be somebody that comes up on your list here shortly?
He is wide receiver 11 for me, actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's not far off, though.
No, he previously was in this list as a late round 2 grade. He's actually another one of those high round 3 grades now. I think for me, I was asking a lot of questions of how is he going to be utilized, and is he going to be a slot only? I thought he could be on the outside because I do like the release. I like a lot of route running. I like the downfield speed. For me, a lot of the questions I had from last year's film, though, didn't really get answered, and even when looking at the measurables, you kind of start piecing this puzzle together where kind of alligator arms a lot of balls. He's not the best with strong hands. He's not going to offer a lot when it comes to catch radius, when it comes to going up and attacking the ball in the air. He's going to be a guy that you need to hit in stride on crossers. You're going to have to hit him up the seam in the breadbasket, not so much leave it out there for him to go get it kind of thing, where I felt like those were his weakest points. I think he brings a lot of versatility, a lot of explosiveness. He's really smart after the catch. There's a lot of things that he's going to do really well at doing. I do think a Z receiver role would probably be best for him, but I see a limit with that, and you kind of see it reflected with some of the combine measurables where he has 9 1/4 hands, which is the 41st percentile, 30 3/4 arm length, which is 20th percentile, 43rd percentile wingspan, 28th percentile height, 19th percentile weight. Like a super limited when it comes to the intangibles of the level of athlete for some of these wide receivers we see. Talked about Ted Hurst previously, Elijah Surratt, bigger guys, especially Hurst, who can still move, whereas Antonio Williams kind of leaves you lacking specifically there.
And So that was Newt's receiver. And we've already done your 8, right, Owen?
Yes, my 8 was. Let's double check. Yeah, no, we have not.
No,
Okay.
we've done my 8.
We did my 9.
Got it. So I guess Owen's up.
This is a controversial take. I think my wide receiver 8 on my board is going to be Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M, which
he's in my top 5. Oh no, he's not. He's actually not that controversial. He's 6 for me.
okay.
So I thought he was in my top 5. He's 6. That's not that
Yeah.
far.
He was visiting the Chiefs today.
That would be if he went 9 there. That would be.
It might be the late. It might be the late first round pick though.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot they got that pick from the Rams. But yeah, I mean, I love the tape. Another guy kind of vibes are higher than the tape, and he's a guy he's grouped together like grades 7 and 8 and 9 to an extent are all kind of clustered together, and then 6, 5 kind of where they start separating. Concepcion is a guy that I loved a lot of this film before Texas A&M when he had. You were watching it, you could see him. I can't remember which team he was playing against. He was going against a team, and it was in the red zone, within the 5-yard line. And he was supposed to run a comebacker, sell to the back corner of the end zone, and then work back to the front pylon. And the quarterback's going to roll out to him, try to hit him at that front pylon, kind of out of bounds where only he can get it. And he just comes off the ball and punches the corner right in the mouth and gets so much separation because he basically almost pushes him out the back of the end zone with how much physical play he has there. And he comes back down and makes the catch wide open in the end zone, whereas like other smaller receivers, or smaller, quote-unquote, would be struggling with that level of physicality. He plays much bigger than his size. And he does a great job running after the catch. He's got a lot of speed to get out of the field. He's a good route runner. I think a lot of that, but similar to the Antonio Williams mold, where the hands became an issue when the ball was in his general vicinity, because their quarterback play was terrible. Me and Jared Ostrowski went back and forth like the past week just dunking on this quarterback for Texas A&M because he was watching their offensive line and Casey Concepcion, and we were just going back and forth, ripping him. Randall got a few shots in there too because that's his guy. But the Concepcion, when he did get the ball in relative places where he can actually go get it and maybe attack it, maybe not the most accurate ball, but in his vicinity, he still struggled to create catches at full extension, have those stronger hands. Which I think if you're going to be on the smaller side but still want to play on the outside, you have to make up for that with some extraordinary elements in that element of your game there. Whereas, like, now I'm thinking, are you going to be more the Z as opposed to an X type receiver, despite me liking a lot of the rest of your game? So I have some question marks with where his true fit is going to be in the NFL. And with those things, when it comes to hands, catch radius, I'd like to have less question marks there in the pre-draft process. Whereas, like, route running and physicality, stuff like that, I would much rather teach that up and get you in a weight room post-draft and worry about those problems afterwards.
And Casey Concepcion, you see him, you could use him at X, you could use him at slot, you could use him at Z, move him around. He's not locked into one of the wide receiver roles.
Yes, we've entered the range while these guys are second-round grades, these are the guys like I would seriously consider for Buffalo 26.
Just to touch on Concepcion, I like the Williams call out. So Concepcion 5'11" and 5'8", 196, and then 30 and 1/8 inch arms. Antonio Williams 5'11" and 4/8 or 1/2, 187 pounds. So there's where that 10-pound jump down is. But then 30 and 3/8 inch arms. So like very, very, very similar in that mold. But I think that Owen hit it on the head. You're able to do more with Concepcion as opposed to some of those other guys because of kind of that maybe it's the 10 pounds that makes a difference, but that play strength. Did you find a little bit of wisp of something there, Owen?
No, I have an ant on my mic. They're everywhere. There's one on the wall here.
Oh, your cat needs to take care of your ants.
Yeah.
So they've abandoned me.
Newt, what do you think of a Ladd McConkey comp for Concepcion?
I saw that in the chat. I don't know. I'm so bad with comps when it comes to like.
Okay.
It's not even a comp. It's like this, just to keep it going. Like this guy gives me those vibes. That's like the Surratt and Pat Jones. Like I get vibes from him. I don't know. Sure.
No, and that's fair because not
He
everybody
gets
likes to
open
do
and
comps,
catches
so
the
I
ball.
didn't put you in the right situation there.
Here's
It's
the
open,
difference,
he
I
catches
think.
the ball.
Here's, but Casey Concepcion, that's like one of my biggest gripes from him. He's like 2 years in a row, double-digit drop rate, where
Yeah.
like it drives me nuts. Like this guy, for me, he could be and I've got him at 6. He could be a lot higher. I just need to catch the damn ball. And I think that's where like I think McConkey was a little bit more surefire. I think he was less dynamic, but he was a little bit more consistent than Casey Concepcion. I don't know if that makes sense. So
It does.
I wouldn't say that, but that's just me. I'm terrible with comps, so don't take anything I say with anything more than a grain of salt.
So, Owen, here's your number 7.
Whoa,
That
whoa,
way-
whoa,
Whoa.
You
He
gotta
just-
go
he just
first
got to
with the
talk.
first 3. I was trying to give Owen a chance to go first.
Owen's been going first.
Yeah.
Owen's always going
It's
first.
new
That's-
Okay.
now, which we've already covered, but we'll talk about it anyway.
Well, we don't have to talk about Chris Bell. Like we already said Chris Bell really well. He was my number 8. So we're on to my number 7, actually.
There you go.
And I get to finally introduce someone, or I get to introduce someone for the 4th time, according to Jim. Moving on. Jeremy Bernard is my number 7. Owen, is he in your top 10?
He's my number 7.
Oh, let's go!
We got a match.
I was going to say, in my mind, I was like, either Owen has him in his top 10 or he doesn't, and he has got a dark horse that is just lurking somewhere really high that I'm excited
Owen
to hear
has
about.
been high on Bernard. Like, Bernard at 7 is low for Owen relative to where he was over the summer.
Oh, that's awesome. So, all right, well, I'll kick it off and I'll like kind of let you take over from there. Like Jeremy Bernard, it's the same conversation about Elijah Surratt. I just think Jeremy Bernard is like a little bit better of an athlete. I think that beyond what he gave at Alabama as just like Ty Simpson's safety blanket, like he was one of the big reasons that Simpson was able to find success early as a starter at Bama, because he had such a reliable and well-refined receiver in Jeremy Bernard that he was able to continue to go back to. Just to kind of like hit through my notes really quick on him, I think he's got really good size for the position. When you take a look at him, 6'1" and a quarter, 206 pounds, over 30 and over 30 inches. I read that wrong. I got like even more excited for a second, but alas, we're here. But he's got really good size for the position. He's a natural hands catcher. I think he does a great job of getting to the ball in the air. Body control, especially along the sidelines, I was really impressed with. And I think that that's something that I look for in terms of translation to the NFL, is their ability to, have the awareness for where they are on the field. And I think it plays a little bit into player IQ. I think he understands how to sit down in zone coverage. And it's something that I think shows up when he's on crossing and slant routes, that you see him when he's in zone coverage. He has kind of an understanding when maybe to undercut the route a little bit. So he puts himself in the soft spot in that coverage. And once again, it goes back to the IQ, and I think it goes back to how pro ready he is as a player. And then I think he's really good after the catch. When you ask him to kind of be a productive receiver, and I think it goes to the fact that he's running a lot of crossers and slant routes, and like being that guy for Alabama that is just like, boom, we're going to hit you with an easy one over the middle when, we're not asking Simpson to go outside the numbers. It's just right in front of him. I think he's able to get the ball in stride and then do some things with it that are really dynamic and really fun. And I think that, like, ultimately, like, he is a really refined game. I made a note against Georgia, like, taking a look at all of these things and in his ability. Like Owen said, when you get to this range, you get guys that are able to play a lot of things. Like, I could see Jeremy Bernard as a bigger slot player. I can also see him kind of as like an X-type receiver where he's able to win off the line. I think he's got a great release package. He won with a phenomenal diamond release off the line of scrimmage for a beautiful inside move to get a touchdown against Georgia. So, like, I think that he is really well-rounded. I think he's able to do even a little bit more than Surratt in terms of like that separation and the athleticism. And that's why I've got him as my number 7 overall. I'm sorry, my number 7 overall receiver.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of what I had written down. Like, the first words that came out of your mouth were he has good size, and I said good size for his profile, where he's 6'1", Twitchy, I thought he did a really good job with body contortion and going up and attacking the ball above the rim, which is surprising because, Newt, do you have his combine testing numbers up in front of him? Because I have them.
I've got only the 40 vert and 3 cone, but if you want to spin them off.
Well, no, so that's one of them is what I want to talk about. His vert was, like, terrible.
Yeah, it was not good for a receiver.
What happened?
I don't know. Here's the
Like,
thing: he had a shitty vert, and he still had a 9 for his RAS.
Yeah, he has a on tape. It's phenomenal where he's able to elevate attack. Maybe that's a lot of his arm extension and being able to utilize. No, it's not even that because he has 13 percentile arms. For wide
I was gonna
receiver,
say he's
so
got
it's
stubby little arms.
whatever it was in pads. He looks way better than he did at the combine. But I have a lot of the same stuff you're talking about. I think he is twitchy enough to play in the slot, despite the fact that he's 6'1". I thought he'd be a little smaller than that, to be honest with you. I thought he'd be hovering around the 6 foot, maybe in that same like Antonio Williams, Casey Concepcion range.
I think that's
But
why
he
I got
can-
excited because he is over 6'1". And I'm like, yeah, like now we got a versatile receiver.
And like exactly. And I had that written down where I was like, could be a slot because he's twitchy and can separate. He's one of the best route runners in the class when it comes to that level of being able to utilize his footwork and explosiveness in the short area to then create separation. But he also has a good release package. He's a dog. He will block his ass off. He will punch you in the mouth and not be sorry for it and just keep doing it, coming back down after down. He is physical. I do think that there were some times where I didn't love how much he body catched a bit, where he let stuff into his frame a bit more. I can't remember which game it was. Maybe it was Missouri from, it was Missouri from this past season where he had like a couple double clutches and a couple balls went off his chest and he had to kind of collect itself first before he can get into his run after catch, which is upsetting because I really do like him run after the catch. I wish his transition there was a bit smoother. So I do think he's a high floor like wide receiver 2. Where you got a guy that maybe isn't the most the best with long speed, but he is explosive. He does a lot of things for you that you really would like, which was reflected in that combine performance. But he has kind of a cap put on how good he could be with his athleticism being where it is at.
Nice. So we did my number 6 with KC Concepcion. So that kicks it back to Owen. Can I take a guess as to who's your number 6?
Yes, you can.
Is it Elijah Surratt?
It's Elijah Surratt. We were running out of numbers here.
Let's go. Wait. Is our top 5 our top 5 is the same?
It's the same 5 players. I'm sure of it.
Unless once again that dark horse is still looming somewhere out there.
Yeah, it's Bryce Lance. No,
he's coming in hot. I didn't know Russo was on this podcast.
I can start real quick with Surratt because we touched on it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, you go and talk about Surratt a little bit.
So I think what we touched on earlier definitely was a lot of the selling point. I think he's a really good route running in the short to intermediate because he's a lot more explosive than he is fast. And he can use his body to shield out on those slants and those like comebackers and stuff like that where he can use his physicality to open up a window for the quarterback. You saw that a lot with Mendoza at Indiana where like he maybe struggled a bit with over the middle stuff because he can't really run away from those crossers. But when it comes to the outside work, I do think he really does utilize his body a lot and helps out with that when it comes to his footwork and ability to get off the press. He does. My problem with him coming into the year, because I remember when everyone was talking about him as like a potential first-round pick early on in the season, after my summer scouting watch, I didn't love how he was as a contested catch guy in those opportunities he got, as opposed like going above the rim.
You mean
winning the
the
50-50s?
5 million opportunities that he gets as a contested catch wide receiver?
Well, yeah. So when he was at Indiana last year, prior to Mendoza getting
okay.
there, when he was going up and trying to have to out-muscle guys with a ball, like in a true jump ball situations, didn't love that. The difference this year, though, is I think he unlocked an elite superpower in his back shoulder game, where he has a ton of those contested catches, which are counting those back shoulders, and he got a quarterback who was smart enough and accurate enough on the outside to get those balls to him and had the chemistry with him, that I think if you get a quarterback that enjoys throwing those footballs, which is why I like him to like the Bills at 26, even though he has a ceiling on his athleticism, you're getting an X that no matter what the play is, if your quarterback says, all right, cool, I don't like what I'm seeing, check, you're going to a back shoulder where you're open. I know you're open. You're always going to be open because we have that connection to I can just put it where I know you're going to get it and no one else is going to get it. And I can trust that 80% of the time he's going to get those back shoulder catches. Like that is one of the few things that some of these players have that is like an elite trait in this class is those back shoulder throws with Elijah Surratt, which is why I'm so high on him individually.
So I'm not calling this a comp by any means, but when you talk about that takes me like to the days of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, Where like
Yes.
that back shoulder throw, once you get the chemistry between a quarterback and a wide receiver, it is damn near undefendable. Where like you can't do anything other than a defensive pass interference against it.
Yeah, which is why I think the Raiders should draft him, like, whatever, the 36th or whatever pick they have in the top of the second.
I
If
would
he's
love
there,
that.
pair him up with Mendoza. You don't have to worry about onboarding another receiver to match up with him to maybe recreate that magic. You already got him there.
I like that a lot.
You have to help your rookie quarterback.
Exactly.
And I do like the shout out with the Devontae Adams chemistry with Rodgers, because there were some offensive efficiency metrics that Packers offense had for like 2 or 3 years running, where, like you said, if it wasn't a pass interference, it was a first down.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
It's just automatic.
I mean, so I like, not to get too far off topic, but Rodgers is one of the best because of his ability to be an efficient quarterback. He's just so damn like well refined with like those elements to his game, where it's just like, I mean, I was spoiled to watch it for like the majority of my late childhood and college and early adulthood. It was just a great time to be a Packer fan. But
We have another wide receiver to get to. So, Newt, do you want to guess who the number 11 overall player on Owen's board is? And I bet that's the next wide receiver that you're going to talk about.
no, we his number 11 was Antonio Williams.
No, his
No,
number
overall.
11 overall on his board.
Oh, yeah, it's
I
gonna be
bet
Omar.
that's the next
It's gonna be Omar
receiver.
Cooper Jr. Oh, he's the top 5 guy for me now. I went back and
Yep.
I had
You're
to give
more right now than you were. I feel a lot better about your level of intelligence than I did when I first got on that call and saw that jersey you were wearing.
Hey, I told you I was wearing it today. That was already set from a week ago. And what have the Red Wings done in the last week? Shit the bed 3 straight games, losing in the third period or overtime.
Raise your hand if your team hasn't lost since the Olympic break. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Cool. So I'm not going to steal too much thunder because I'm going to let Owen talk about him a lot because he is Owen's guy. Even though I want to point out we were the ones to introduce Owen to Cooper Jr. on the drafted team. We'll take that. So I think with Omar Cooper Jr., I'll talk actually like a little bit about my gripes about him because I think that tells a little bit more of the story. I think with him, number one, I see a guy that I think is going to be a slot player, but I'm a little more comfortable with him on the outside, which is where I think that there's a bigger selling point for him for me. I think that I still don't like the fact that he does seem to have a fairly limited route tree. A lot of his production came off bubble screens and in-breaking slant routes at Indiana. And with that, I wanted to get a couple more games so I could see something else. And I got a chance to put eyes on him at the Illinois game, and he was able to kind of showcase some of that ability to play out wide. There was one play where for him, he was able to win with just his pace on the outside. There's no shoulder fakes. It was just pace of run where I was wildly impressed with kind of that ability from him and his ability to win out wide when he's facing a little bit more of a physical corner. So that's a little bit more of a selling point for me. I do still worry about the route tree from him. I want to see more from him, and I think that that's going to be a growing point that he needs to address early in his rookie campaign, training camp, whatever it is. I think he's got to be more refined with a larger variety of routes. And then I take a look at him as well. I'm not like super blown away by him as a separator. I think he is a above average separator, but I don't think he's like this god when it comes to separating. And I think that with him, that is part of the reason you see him getting used inside and kind of on those bubble screens a little bit more. But the real reason is he is a dog when you put the ball in this man's hands. Like, once again, my grading scale goes from 1 to 7. It's tough to get a 7 for me on just about any category. Yards after catch, Omar Cooper Jr., 7. Like,
So
He
I
is
want to
incredible.
add to that. So Jack Brentnall had a stat on Omar Cooper Jr. He leads the nation in yards after catch when the throw is more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage.
I remember him kind of coming out with that.
There's a
And
Sunday podcast me and him did, I think. Was when he
yeah,
dropped
and
that.
that it's by a lot. And then Newt, I have a question, and this will pivot right to Owen because I'm giving you a take that Owen had a couple weeks ago. So
Yes.
if you were to look at Justin Jefferson in college,
Oh, I remember. I
And
already know
compare
this is
him to-
going.
and then
He
compare him to
primarily
Omar Cooper
played
Jr.
in the slot, and now he primarily plays X for the Minnesota Vikings. And I think it goes to like tee off of that exactly what Owen's going to talk about and exactly what you're getting at, Jim. I think that Cooper Jr. can win outside. And I think the fact that he's used primarily at Indiana as a slot player is not necessarily indicative of that, a la Justin Jefferson at LSU and now at the Vikings. I do think that Omar Cooper Jr. is not the player that Justin Jefferson was, and I do have a little bit of reservation there because I almost want him as that slot player because I want to be able to get those quick hitters into his hands. And for me, when I see that and I see what Omar Cooper Jr. does the best, I see a guy that, like, he's like a souped up version of Zachariah Branch, where like Branch is so gimmicky because everything is underneath. Like Omar Cooper Jr., you're getting almost, if not better, the same level of production on this like yards after the catch, but you're getting a more dynamic receiver out of it. So I like him as a slot receiver because I think that he can be better utilized for the trait that is best for him. However, I do think he can be an outside receiver.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I go on my Omar Cooper Jr. rant now, or when we get closer to my top of my list?
I think we're talking about him now, so I know that
Let's let it rip.
Yeah, I would just let it rip.
Yeah, so I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson. Let me get that clear. He's not Justin Jefferson. However, I was just looking and comparing their stats that came out of the combine. They ran 0.01 off each other on the 40 and 0.01 off each other on the 10-yard dash. Jefferson jumped half an inch higher on the vertical. Jefferson was 6'1", 202. Cooper was 6 foot, 199 at the combine. A lot of stuff that's kind of bringing a bit closer. To his arm length nearly isn't as much as Jefferson's was, but he actually has bigger hands. There's a lot of stuff with measurables wise that fits, and I think that the comparison really comes from the fact that Jefferson was a primary slot guy. I remember that draft cycle. It was like Jamar Chase on the outside. There was some other guys at LSU who were like these third, fourth receivers. Like I think McMath, Racy McMath was a guy. There was another one too. I can't really remember who the other receiver at LSU was that season that had a decent draftable. I think it was it Talon Wallace? No, there was someone like that. That ended up being on like Carolina and stuff. But those were the outside guys because they had outside bodies and outside skill sets, and Jefferson could do that, but he was best utilized in the slot because they liked to get the ball in his hands. They liked him to use his speed in the space and be able to make guys miss and be that more dynamic threat over the middle of the field. That's not to say he couldn't do anything on the outside. Obviously, we've seen he can, which is where I think I sit with Omar Cooper Jr. because when he was asked to play on the outside, he didn't take a step back. He showed an ability to play above the rim, like that Penn State game. The game-winning touchdown of that game was back of the end zone. He elevates like he floats in the air, makes a one-handed catch, comes down, body contorts, gets in the back of the end zone. And that's not the only time he does that on tape, but like that's the big one I think everyone knows about. He does a lot of those things where it's playing bigger than size. He plays like a 6'2" receiver despite being 6 foot, but still has the juice and the ability to make guys miss after the catch. And he's been at Indiana for a few years, which is not, I wouldn't say, how long has Cignetti been there? Was this his first season or second season?
No, this is 2. Yeah.
Okay, then I feel way more comfortable in saying that he is a Cignetti guy, where he will block his ass off despite being probably the most dynamic option they had in that passing game. Where he was a player that did a bunch of stuff for everybody, whether it was for himself or for his teammate. If he was going to be the guy on those bubble screens, or if he was going to be the guy blocking for the bubble screens, he was giving his all every single play. And the fact that he was already kind of that selfless mentality at wide receiver, and he's going to come into the NFL and have opportunities to be more of a volume target, but still have that kind of DNA bred into him, makes me so excited for what he could do in an offense that maybe already has a number one guy, and now he becomes an elite 2, and then eventually breaks out into becoming a number 1 down the road, where I think he comes in right mentality, good level athleticism, and can be a part player initially without any complaints, and then still evolve into being the number 1 kind of guy.
Damn.
That's my soapbox.
That's so I don't see the blocking the same way you do. I see a guy that's willing but not as effective, and I think that is going to be maybe just a little bit of a difference in kind of like where you see him, but definitely an element there. The Daniel Jones thing, $50 million per year is
well, it's like 30, but it can get up to 50, I think, right?
Yeah, because that was larger than the initial report because I had seen 30.
I saw 60, yeah, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
a 2-year, $100 million contract. But if that's incentive based, that's a little different too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it is.
Do you want to say your number 5 guy?
Yeah, my wide receiver number 5 is going to be Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington.
Absolute slander, ridiculous.
Yeah, both ex-Washington receiver Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 5, Denzel Boston. I must hate these Washington wide receivers. He's just a guy that, and I hate. I'm working with Bills fans and talking to Bills fans. The Keon Coleman comps have been flying for Denzel Boston, and it makes no sense to
That's
me.
not fair. That's not even close to the player he is, just because he's big.
They don't want a guy who's big in contested catch situations, but like even just watching how he wins contested catches and why I love Boston so much is that he doesn't win because he's just in the way that I was talking about with Surratt last season, where it's just like, okay, go win a jump ball, try to be a bigger, better athlete than this guy. He doesn't do that, where he can and will do that, except for when he's being defended by D'Angelo Pons. But when he is asked to do that kind of stuff, he sets himself up a lot more where it's that back shoulders. It's offering a window for the quarterback to throw it to put it in a better position for him to win, to change those 50-50 balls into more 60-40, 75-25, on top of being 6'4" and long and lanky, and having a vertical. So I do think that he's a guy that can attack the ball in the air and set up those jump balls better before the ball's even out of the guy's hands. In addition to that, he's just he's a monster with the ball in his hands. Like, he will run dudes over and just is aggressive getting up the field. Sneaky athlete. I think people are going to not see that a lot because he had an ankle injury most of this season. But I think he's a guy that can be a better athlete than what the height suggests. I think he's closer. He is closer to Mike Evans than he is to Keon Coleman.
I like Mike Evans. I like the Mike Evans call out because I see that I see a guy that when you ask him to do what is best for his team, he is going to give you that. The blocking for Denzel Boston is one of the things that stands out for me. I'll never forget, very first game I put on from him, 24 tape against USC. The first snap of that game, he is out wide as an X receiver. He comes in and just blows up a safety on a running play. That's like, it's basically an off tackle run and just lights him up. And I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to like this guy already just from like the character aspect of him, how he's willing to, put himself aside for his team. Cause you see so many guys that just, they're not willing to make that sprint and make that statement. They just want to live outside and catch the ball. And I think with him, you get a guy that is, and you said it, like, he's incredibly gifted as a contested catch receiver. He had over 75% contested catch percentage this year. And he's not a guy that lives in contested situations. And I think that's the biggest difference between him and Coleman. And that's why I hate that comp. And I know you're not making it, but like when Bills fans do or whatever it may be, you're looking at a guy that has the ability to win in a lot of different ways. I think he's actually he's a decent separator for his size. He's actually probably pretty good separator for his size. You got to remember the man's 6'3" and 5'8". Like, you're not going to move the same way that Venus is right at my feet right now, actually. That's so funny. She just came down by me, and she never comes down by a podcast. But you have a guy like he's not going to look like Makai Lemon when he's out there running routes, but he does a really good job of being a smooth athlete at that size and being dynamic enough where he can win on a variety of routes. He can be, a really impactful presence on that boundary as both a in-breaking player, as a go deep and chuck it up type player. And I really do like him in there. I think he's got to improve his play strength a little bit. I think for the size that he is, this is where I'm not quite there with Mike Evans. I think I'd put Mike Evans out there against any player except Lattimore, and I'd let him go toe-to-toe with him because I think that he's going to be able to succeed because he is such a strong player. And I don't think Boston's there yet. I think he could get there. And once again, like I don't think he's like this freak athlete. I think he's a good athlete for the size. And as much as I joke and I jest, he's my wide receiver 4. So we see him really, really similar.
Well, who is why is Omar Cooper Jr. was your wide receiver 5 then?
5, Boston's 4. They're separated by less than a tenth of a point on my scale. So I do see them very similar.
Okay. Do you want me to hit my 4 then?
Mm-hmm.
So this might be the next most other than Omar Cooper Jr. at 2, and then Casey Concepcion at lower.
This is gonna roll.
Owen's about to
into
hate
mine.
on Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah.
Oh no, really?
Wide receiver 4 is
God.
Carnell Tate.
Not again.
My last second round grade I have on wide receivers. It's
You have
high
a second round grade on Carnell Tate?
All right, hold on. Sorry. My one board that I'm basing this off of is film grades. With the position multiplier, he is 21st on my board with a first round grade.
That's still disgusting. Oh my God.
I like the player. And I
No, you don't. You hate him. You think he's undraftable.
The problem is I have the same grade on him now, maybe a half point or point more than I did when the season started, which was I thought he was a really top end number 2 kind of guy who's going to win as a vertical receiver who has size and sneaky speed because he's very good with his long strides. I think he's up there with Sarad for having one of the few guys in this class with like an elite trait, which is going to be his head fakes and shoulder fakes on deep routes to make guys bite and get open deep.
He
doesn't
does
have
it
to be
all the
fastest guy.
time.
Yes, and coming into this, I think where he gained ground with me a little bit was that I think he expanded a lot more in his short to intermediate game this year. For me, what I'm still holding out for is he's not not an elite athlete. He makes it work, but he's not an elite athlete, especially after the catch or just having burners. As well as maybe I've not seen enough, but I remember when I still had access to some of my advanced film and advanced stats. He had like RIP. He had 11 total contested catch situations last year, and then in the first half of the season, it was another one where he was like in the low 10s, maybe even still single digits by the time. It's just he created so much separation, you could say, that he didn't ever have to be in contested catch situations. But
it's such a bad thing.
If I'm going to draft a 6'4" wide receiver, I need to know he's going to win me some 50-50 balls.
How dare he get open? How dare he get open?
I'm not saying he should never get. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that if you're gonna be that size and you're not gonna be this absolute burner Calvin Johnson, Mapletron freakazoid that can just run away from dudes at that same height, you're gonna have to win some contested catches above the rim, and that was never his calling card. All the majority of those contested catches that I watched, which I watched every rep because there wasn't a lot of them, were over the middle in traffic, not over the top, attacking above the rim. I think he maybe had like 1 or 2 plays like that, which were successful completions from what I saw. And that was, again, before the second half of this season. Maybe he evolved into a totally different player by that point, but he's missing that element of his game to really be this elite, dominant, top 5 draft pick.
So, Carnell Tate, I'm going to spit some numbers at you, and I can't state their description in terms of like what you're saying with are they over the middle or outside or whatever. He was 12 for 14 on contested catch opportunities. 12 for 14, Owen. That is what translates to an 85.7%. And How dare he? How dare he get open so often that this number is so low? You know what we're gonna do? We are gonna punish this guy because he's such a good separator, and he gets open so often that you know what? Undraftable. We're gonna call him undraftable and go from there. This is ludicrous.
I'm telling you, 13 or 12 of those 14 were over the middle when there was a linebacker breathing down on him. He had to make a tough catch over the middle because he was going to take on contact. It's not
He only
him
made one.
above the rim.
One. I can point to two. I know two off the top of my head.
There you go, 2. That's what I said. He got like 2.
I can just 2. Like, I'm not saying that there's not any more. He did the same exact thing twice, and I'm not saying it was an above the rim. And like, I will give you that. I don't see necessarily like the above the rim. Toss it to the corner of the end zone, let him go up and get it. I don't think that's his play. Here's where, like, I have seen him make those contested catches, though, because I think it is really fun for him. You take a look at him, and he did it, once again, versus Texas, where he hit a really nice shoulder fake, which you talked about he's really good at, a really nice shoulder fake and then was able to burn the cornerback up high. Of course, saying underthrows him and makes this extremely challenging catch for Carnell Tate. What does he do? He's like, all right, well, I'll bail you out on this one, Julian. Boom. And he gets it falling backwards with a defensive back in his face.
You need to raise your hand.
And he gets a touchdown. What's your question?
Was this cornerback Malik Muhammad, who I have around 6-7 grade on?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
Because I'm also a big hater of him, and if that's the case, that's not impressive.
I could stand in front of a guy if they're
almost
falling
got
backwards.
Newton speechless.
If they're falling backwards, I'm standing in front of you, like blocking out the sun, and you're making the catch, going back. He did the exact same thing versus Penn State. It was on the other side of the field. It was like a 35-yard throw on the field. Once again, he beats the cornerback, gets up high, open, and Sand just underthrows the ball yet again, and he does. It was like mirrored image. And that's 2 of them, which you're like, oh, no, those are stupid contested catch situations.
I'm not saying he can't do it, but the fact that he only did it like he has 14 on the season as a 6'2.5" wide receiver in college football. He should have more.
This is like getting angry at a cornerback for playing 600 snaps in a season and only having 1 pick because there was only 5 balls thrown his way. Like, how dare he only have 1 interception? Because he did such a good job of covering the opposing wide receiver.
So, Owen, I have a contested catch question. So
yes.
If we use the general, I don't want to say argument, but the discussion point of contested catch is something that doesn't translate well from one level to the other. Do you buy that if you're a good contested catch guy in college, that's not necessarily something that's going to translate at the NFL?
Yes, I think it does translate because you have to remember all these NFL players are also college players. Like if they were getting contested catch wins in college and then they face that same dude in the NFL, it's still the same guy he played in college. It's going to be it's a lot less of a window of going against Big 12 corners that aren't getting drafted. You're going against top draft picks every single time. Yeah. So I think it can translate. If you hang your hat on that consistently, that's where you have a problem.
That's the problem.
For me, Tate does everything. He's my wide receiver 4 with a borderline true first round grade, because he's a great receiver when it comes to separating and attacking down the field. And I do think he has good body control and good hands. But I think when it comes to asking him to elevate, because he's going to be in more than 14 situations in his rookie season in the NFL where he's going to have to win a contested catch situation, and it's not going to be just over the middle traffic balls. It's going to be on the outside. He's going to be an X receiver. He's going to be on the outside against Pat Surtain and against Sauce Gardner and against Kamari Lassiter, and he's going to have to make these catches, and he didn't prove to do it consistently in college.
Okay. Well, I like the way you put it better the second time.
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
I want to, I'm going to piggyback off that, and I agree with Owen. I think that, Quentin Johnston is the perfect example of this. You can be a contested catch player, but you can't only be a contested catch player and be a high value wide receiver. I think it's going to go back to Malachi Fields. I love Malachi Fields as a contested catch player. You talk about a guy that can go above the rim, that can win downfield, and can just do so many dynamic things. He's not a separator, though. He's not going to be able to win in a lot of versatile situations. He's going to win with the go ball down the field, and that's it. And I know Owen probably even thinks less of him in that regard. Yes. I'm like the high man, and I think Malachi Fields, like, I've got Fields with a late round 3 grade, and I think I'm probably one of the more generous guys on him. But like he's a guy that like he does that really well. But I'm not drafting him in the first round because he does it really well. And I think that's the problem. Going back to Tate, I think that Tate does win in contested catches really well. I don't think that necessarily his calling card, and I think that he does so many things really well. I think while he's not necessarily like the greatest athlete, he is a very smooth athlete. When you ask him to be an effective route runner, he's nuanced and he's able to pair that that understanding of the game with that adequate level of athleticism. Like he's an above average athlete. He's going to be able to get the job done. And he understands exactly how to win. He's got phenomenal hands. He had a 0.0 drop percentage this year, which is something you absolutely love to see when you take a look at him as an effective target. And this is with Jeremiah Smith in the exact same offense. He had yards per route run of 3, which is a ludicrous number. And it's a really, really, and I know Owen's probably seething over there because he's like, he always gets the cornerback ones. He always gets the cornerback ones. It means Tate's just like facing these scrubs like Malik Muhammad who can't cover anyone. But he is really able to be an effective player when you put him up still with that. And one of my notes I said last year was he's got to be able to show out when he's not paired with Travion Henderson and Will Howard and
Emeka
Egbuka and all of these guys. And obviously, like Jeremiah Smith's not going anywhere, but like he was still able to have a phenomenal season. Like I don't know. For me personally, I don't know what more I would have wanted Carnell Tate to do other than like gain 10 pounds of pure muscle and like just throw a guy 5 yards across the field on a stiff arm consistently, where I'd be like, yeah, no, this guy's great.
I think the Jeremiah Smith thing, I think he's an elite number 2 receiver. He is T. Higgins. He is, name another one. He's Devonta Smith with AJ Brown, like not the same type of player, but like he's that level of like you don't know who the true number 1 is because you have 2 guys.
Disgusting and slander. All right, let put your money where your mouth is. I'm not asking for a draft pick. I think that would be unfair. Put your money where your mouth is. Rookie contract, jersey deal. Better rookie season buys the jersey for the other player or for the other person. If Omar Cooper Jr. has a better rookie season than Carnell Tate, I will buy you Omar Cooper Jr.'s jersey and send it to you.
Oh, no, don't. Owen's about to take your money because Omar Cooper Jr. is going to the Rams at 13 overall.
We don't know that. We absolutely don't know that.
Carnell Tate might go to the Chiefs.
Owen thought he was taking my money last year with Matthew Golden. And look who's rocking a freaking Matthew Golden jersey right now for the Packers.
I thought you were wearing a Red Wings jersey.
Not right now, this instant. That was a figure of speech, Jim.
I don't know about that one, Jim.
Does anyone else do that, Jim? Where they just quote Romo? Or no, is it just us?
No, that's just you guys, but we're good.
So many lost opportunities.
Did you see Jerry imitate me a couple weeks ago on the podcast?
No, I heard about this. I haven't gone back. You guys told me about it last week. I gotta go back and watch it.
It's hilarious.
All right, is the bet on?
Yes, I will take that bet. Are we counting injuries?
No, if there's a
per game stats.
No, if there's a significant injury, it's off. Let's do that because like even then. So are we doing it by yards?
Could we cap it? Are we going to cap it? Well, hold on. So we're going to cap it like 10 games. You have to play minimum 10 games for it to count.
I would say
10 of 17.
I would say minimum. Yeah, minimum 10 games. Minimum 10
games. 10 of 17. And
because of injury. Because of injury. It can't be because your ass sat on the bench and you didn't do anything.
I got it here. So to factor in catches, yards, touchdowns, all of that, fantasy points.
Okay, that's
PPR
fair.
fantasy points.
Yep. PPR fantasy points. Whoever's higher, the other person will buy that player's jersey for the winner.
Deal. I'm in.
Sweet.
And this time you won't
like
get a
that.
22 golden instead of, and it changes his number
Dude,
after
the
I get his
22
jersey.
golden is so clutch. I'm so glad you bought it for me early and not late. I love having the 22
So
golden.
who's your number 4?
My number 4 is what I thought was going to be. Oh no, my number 4 is Denzel Boston.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who's
Okay,
your
so it's your number 3.
My number 3 is Jordan Tyson, which.
What? Oh my goodness gracious!
I'm gonna read mine, and then I'm gonna let Owen roast me on why Jordan Tyson, as my 18th overall player, number 3 wide receiver, is ludicrous because I think he's like number 2 on his board. All right, I think he's a gifted athlete. I think he's got great short area bursts. I talked about this with Cooper Jr. with that ability to just like tempo his routes and really do some phenomenal things. And I even talked about like Ted Hurst, where I think that stop ability is phenomenal. I think Tyson has that, but where he's able to do so many dynamic things on in-breaking, out-breaking routes. The problem with that is I don't think he actually turns it into true separation, where I think like it looks really good and he's very abrupt. And that's kind of the word I always go back to him is abrupt or sudden. Like he's a very sudden mover. And I think that that's something where with him, I think he's got some wasted movement because he is able to be, just so quick into and out of those breaks that he should be able to win more, but he doesn't right now. I think I was a little bit thrown back at like his separation when you take a look at him kind of over the course of a full game where I wanted him to be more dominant. And I think he's an extremely reliable target. You're talking about a guy, and the biggest thing with him is going to be the injury history. You take a look at a guy that has yet to play a full collegiate football season and never will because he's going to be in the draft, obviously. With that, he still, over the course of 2024, where I think he missed like 3 games, he had 75 catches. Phenomenal mark. 2025, I think he missed even more. He had 61 catches. So, like, he was such a reliable target for Leavitt in Arizona or at Arizona State. The long speed is evident. He's able to take the top off defenses. The athleticism allows him to be dominant underneath. And I think that's going to be kind of one of the big draws for him. I already mentioned with him where you take a look at a guy that's not necessarily able to translate it to separation. I think also his hands are not necessarily the greatest. It's a difference of like when you put him in a situation where he's asked to be like this body control contested catch freak, I think he can put like an OBJ highlight up like few others can. And I really think he's got that ability to have an elite level of body control at the catch point. But I think that there are just some very routine catches where he'll bobble them. He won't catch them cleanly. Last year he had like almost like an 8.4% drop rate. This year it was a hell of a lot better. But even in the 2 games that I watched this year, Texas Tech and Utah, he had a like a kind of double clutch or a bobble in each of those that he was able to catch. It wasn't a drop, but it's still not something where I'm like sold on his hands for this guy that's supposed to be like a bona fide top 10 pick. And then the other thing that like really threw me off once again, like the athleticism I love, and it's very, very evident, but missed tackles forced and his ability to be effective after the catch, he had of all of the guys that we have talked about here. And this includes Malachi Fields, Mr. Stiff Board running on the sideline himself. He had the lowest missed tackles forced percentage of any player that we have talked about tonight. And that kind of gives me a little bit of pause for concern for like, why aren't you more effective? Is it because of how you're being used down the sideline as like this dynamic X receiver that Leavitt's be able to kind of like, hey, I'm just going to put the ball out there and let him feast in those contested catches? Because I just don't see the pairing of the athlete after the catch to the pairing of the athlete as the route runner, and that's kind of where he comes into wide receiver 3 for me.
All right. Well, the reason I did a whole because he is my wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
He's actually 10th overall, so he's one
Yeah.
spot ahead of Omar Cooper Jr. on my big board. But his grade is pretty clear of his by 1.5, which is on a in my scaling a pretty good decent margin.
I would imagine.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, because like Tyson is a 1.5 higher than Cooper Jr. and the Cooper Jr. is a point higher than my wide receiver 3. So there's some significant difference there. I think you haven't said anything incorrect about Jordan Tyson. I would say that. Have you watched a significant amount of his 2024 tape?
I watched from 2024 K-State and Mississippi State.
Okay, so because I watched Mississippi State, K-State, Arizona, and then Utah, Texas Tech from 2025.
Look at you
And
try hard.
I would say that I was on a 12-hour train ride to Boston and then a 12-hour train ride back. I had a lot of time.
Oh, this is when you got in some fight with some Patriots fans.
I did, and then
Or
they
the
ended up
Celtics?
in
Was
the
it
Super Bowl.
Celtics fans or what was it?
Both. It was after my Nuggets whooped the Celtics
Oh,
with
there it was.
none of the star players, and then I was talking smack in the lobby after a few drinks.
Owen goes to Boston, orders Manhattan clam chowder, and then there's a riot.
Yes. But I think a lot of what you said is not wrong. I just think he's he's a great athlete.
He is.
Elevates, levitates. He's a phenomenal guy when it comes to body control, getting above the rim, even though I don't think he's the strongest guy, which he said, hold my beer, and put up 26 reps at the bench press at the
He did.
combine, which was impressive.
I'll give him that. That's
I mean,
impressive.
he's got shorter arms for the position, so it's not like the most impressive thing, but I think one of my question marks was going to be, is he going to be able to handle physicality on the outside as an X with releases?
Mhm.
And that might prove that he's putting some more work in with that. Maybe his groin still isn't fully healed, or hamstring, whatever one it was this season that was kind of holding him back. However, I think that's what maybe impacted him a bit more this year, and that he's going and building on some of the other stuff to heal. That's a good comment.
Jim, put that one on the screen. That was funny.
Yeah, it's funny, and Steve, your name just came up in the Draft Professor group chat.
Oh, it's so
That
funny.
was funny.
It's really funny, Steve.
But just to wrap it up, like, yeah, you said hands. I said he went down to one drop this year on like 90 targets or something like that. 97 targets, one drop all year. But he still does struggle with some consistency, especially on like the routine plays. I wouldn't say his bear traps, but he's got better hands this year than he did with his 7 drops last year.
Yeah.
I think his rep per catch was a lot better in 24. Again, I think maybe the hamstring was nagging him a bit this season. I just think a lot of combining both years of film together when you're trying to dance around the raindrops of what was actually going to hold him back because of injury, where is he progressing more. I think he's one of the elite route runners in this draft class. He's got size. He's got the ability to play above the rim, unlike some other receivers from up north that we talked about previously.
Hates Ohio State receivers.
JSN was wide receiver 1. I'll take that to the bank. But then, like, he does all that stuff and is able to win as a route runner, win with separation, win after the catch, has athleticism, can go above the rim. He's one of those guys who I think is a true, like, number 1 receiver type in a class that's missing guys that have, like, some confirmable tape to prove that.
No, I think it's fair, and once again, we're arguing the difference between 10 spots on a big board and 2 spots on a wide receiver ranking. I think we can both agree, like, Jordan Tyson's a really good player. I think the injuries are going to be a question for him when it like actually comes to teams evaluating whether or not he's going to be a player that they're looking at that spot.
Okay. Well, how is your 2-3 stacked up? Because we know I have Omar Cooper Jr. at 2.
No, we know my
at least
2-3.
one player.
3 is Tyson, so 2 it's Mikhail.
Yeah,
we both have Mikhail.
I'm sorry.
Tate.
Who's your 2-1? Who's your 2-1?
Well, Tate's my 1. Tate is my
There you go.
my 1. Mikhail Lemon is my 2. Who's Mikhail Lemon's your 2?
He's my 3.
Mikhail Lemon's his 3.
Because
Omar
Cooper Jr. is 2.
Oh, that's right, because you go 10-11 with Cooper Jr. and Tyson. All right.
Yeah, and then Lemon is 3, which again is still player 13 on my board, but there's kind of a drop.
I mean, he's player 11 on my board, so like very, very similar. Do you want to take him or you want me to?
You can take him because I think you'll be a lot more somewhat. You can sum up his stuff a lot quicker. But has the combine interviews colorized anything for him?
Dude, I don't know what to make of that. It was so weird. I think
He's a different
No,
cat.
that was one of the wildest things. I got like tagged on a post about that. Number one, like I hate when I do like when that happens because like it just I don't know what's about to happen. And then I like 80 notifications, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And it's all people commenting on Makai Lemon at the podium, either being, I'm not gonna say half of them, but like stoned or a number of other things. Let's just put it that way.
And then his interviews apparently went terribly.
I heard they went terrible, and then I heard that they went fine, and it was all just like smoke. I don't know. I think it's like the Walter Nolan thing last year, and I think like, is there truth to it? Yes. Is it being a little bit exaggerated because the media thrives on negativity? Yes. So I don't know. That's like,
not everybody's going to be comfortable in front of a microphone.
Correct.
We can see that. You know something? I can think back to like, I remember Josh's first podcast with Draft Professor. It was his first podcast ever. And he just wasn't ready. But within a week, there was like, he was a new human.
yeah.
So I wouldn't read too much into media interviews because that's learned behavior.
Yeah.
And colleges can shield him from that.
Correct.
Right? Like I wouldn't put much stock in it myself, but you know, what do I know? So
I mean, the image was a little weird. I will point that out. But yeah, I agree with that. So I'll try to be quick with this. Makai Lemon, he's not a guy that's four in the top, even top threes. I mean, like he's a good football player. He was a guy that I think maybe a little bit of varying views on over summer scouting, but I think that his ability to be an elite separator really kind of defined his season.
Sorry.
His hand size?
Yeah, it's 8 3/4.
Yeah, it's not.
His
it's
mock draftable
3/8.
web is disgusting.
Yeah, it's not good. But so I think I do think he plays bigger in his size. So if you take a look at his size, and once again, like we've talked about it a lot, he probably looks like, I don't know, like that kind of Z or slot wide receiver to you because he's 5'11" and 1/8, 192 pounds. He's got shorter arms with 30 and 1/8 inches. But I think he plays bigger than, especially in contested catch situations. There was a rep against Notre Dame last year, and then a rep against Michigan this year, where like, I mean, it was absolutely my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, how in the hell did that happen? And when you take a look at him and what he's able to do, I think that's kind of one of the biggest things where you get a guy that's supposed to be like this technical and refined route runner that's able to win with separation over the middle, but he's still able to give you this juice on the outside as this dominant receiver out wide where like he doesn't have the size where like he should be dominating, but like he still is in certain situations. So I love him there. I think he's got really good hands. I think he meets the ball in front of him well and consistently. He's a really good deep ball tracker, and he's able to win at times with speed down the field, where he's able to kind of lull a defense to sleep, especially with his sudden breaks and comebacks underneath. And then I think his experience as a returner shows up very, very well. There was a rep against, I can't remember if it was the Rutgers or Notre Dame last year. I want to say it was the Rutgers, where he got the ball in his hands and it looked like a punt return after that. And you could kind of see how refined he is as a guy that is, you know, carrying the ball down the field and looking to kind of find those breaks in the defense in the backfield. He is a ton of fun. He had a 0.27 missed tackles forced per attempt last year, 6.4 yards after the catch per reception. You know, really, really good marks to be at. And I think with him, you're getting a guy that the size is just about the only thing that gives you pause because he plays with good strength, especially given that size. He plays with really good hands. He plays with great separation and great yards after the catch. Where like I'm kind of thinking like, you know, what more do you want from this guy right here?
To be like 3 inches taller.
Yeah, I mean, once again, that's it.
So, Owen, I have a question on Makai Lemon. So, Zachariah Branch and Makai Lemon were at USC at the same time. And Zachariah Branch outproduced Lemon. So Lemon didn't start producing until Branch left. So could somebody come to a conclusion that Lemon couldn't beat out Branch, or do you look at it differently?
I think Branch is just a pure like athletic freakazoid that they just want to get on the field no matter what happened. Whereas Lemon needed to refine himself, and to the point where he's at now, where he's an elite route runner, he's got an ability to win with some of the more minute details of the position and still have some good athletic upside. So that's why you see Zachariah Branch be as undercooked and undeveloped as he is, because teams didn't care enough to coach him up because they knew that they could just throw him on the field and he'll make plays regardless of how much you coach him up. He was very much low investment, high return kind of player, whereas Makai Lemon needed to be kind of sat on and seasoned and prepared to start. And then you see that it pays off now, where he plays bigger than his size. He's bided his time and he wants to win. He wants to go out there and be that guy. I never had any question that he doesn't want it. The only thing that keeps him from being like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 for me is that he is that smaller guy, and I don't think that impacts his catch radius, especially because I do think he attacks above the rim really well for a guy being 5'11". And just when it comes to like corners that can match his technique off the press, and still give him some of that physicality, or give him some of that physicality in route, it does affect him more than some of these other guys. Where I do think that some of these thicker dudes, like Omar Cooper Jr., Jordan Tyson, or Carnell Tate, aren't as affected by it. Even to a point where Casey Concepcion, I don't think, is super impacted by it compared to where Lemon is. So for me, he's a guy that does everything you want. It's just going to be when the game gets more physical and these guys who can play with physicality get faster and can run with you more. Are you able to survive more so than you did, or are you going to be able to produce as much as you did in college? Because now it's going to be even more difficult for you to exist with maybe that much of a glaring weakness there. But I do think the rest of his game all around is awesome. Especially, I do love that he's a returner with a lot of experience there.
So would you say Makai Lemon is slot only?
I wouldn't. I would love him in the slot, but I wouldn't say he's slot only.
I think
because once again, I think he's able to like win outside more than his size would project. I think his release isn't the greatest, but I think he plays with better play strength than you would think out wide. So I don't think he's slot only. No.
I think his ideal spot is a slot in the spread offense. But if you need him to be a Z, or you run a lot of 1 or 2 tight ends, and you need him to be an outside receiver to complement that, a lot of tight ends to be the slot guys, he can do that as well. It just won't be his most ideally utilized position.
Yeah. So if Makai Lemon goes in the top 10, you guys wouldn't blink at that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think the last 3 guys I talked about with Tyson, Cooper Jr., Lemon going top 10, I wouldn't blink at. Carnell Tate, I would get it. I would understand it. I wouldn't be over the moon about it.
Wide receiver 1 off the board.
Oh, I mean, the Titans draft professors are all over Tate. Tate is the dream pick for the Titans. Tate is the dream pick for the Chiefs draft professors.
It's him or the field for wide receiver 1.
You guys are assholes on Twitter. Oh man. What were we talking about? Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so Newt, I haven't seen you tagged in anything.
But...
Oh, you'll see it.
You'll see it.
Well, and you see, I thought I had notifications on, but apparently I gotta go verify.
It's not for that. It's Stephen Owen.
Oh, I know, but like I should have notifications on for all 3 of you.
Oh man.
And I didn't. Yeah, I had notifications on. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you'll see it. But yeah, that's our top 10 over friggin' 90 minutes of sheer tomfoolery.
While Jim's still checking for that, is there any like one name you think you would want to talk about that you can just toss out there that you like is your guy?
No, I don't think so. I gotta do a rewatch on a handful of guys, and like the guys that I did watch, I'm not like super enamored with. I really want to watch Deion Burks again. So I watched him last year, and he was so much fun that I want to check him out again. I just haven't got around to that. And then Bryce Lance as well. I think those are two guys. I haven't watched any 2025 film yet. I want to because I like them a fair bit, and I think that they could, potentially rise into one of the top 10 spots.
My top three receivers with the first three guys I have with fourth round grades are in order, highest to lowest: Chris Brazzell, Bryce Lance, and then Deshaun Stribling.
Okay.
Love that guy.
I was gonna ask. So I haven't watched Brazzell yet. What are your thoughts? Do you want to just give like a quick 30-second rundown on Brazzell?
He has the best highlights of any receiver in this class, where like his highs are amazing, and he's different than any other Tennessee receiver you've watched in the past, where he actually will succeed as an NFL receiver. I just hated whether it's Tennessee offense or whether it's him specifically in the Tennessee offense. I don't remember hating this specifically about any of the other Tennessee receivers, that he just takes plays off and won't block. Just doesn't have that kind of like, doesn't do the small things, and like there have been plays where negatively impacted his other teammates because he didn't block, and that guy he was supposed to block or run off he ends up making the play, and it's like the stuff that pisses you off when you watch it. And it's like, why you could have just did that.
No, it makes that. I mean, that kind of sounds like a lot of the things I've heard for him.
Then there's a couple of draft professors. I'll give you. We did a wide receiver sleeper show on Monday, so Owen's already mentioned Deshaun Stribling, right? And then Ted Hurst, you've already watched.
Yep.
There are draft professors with a day 2 grade on Lewis Bond from Boston College.
Joy, another guy to add to my list. I'm trying to get number of players and number of days until the draft to be a ratio of less than 1. And every time I come on this podcast on Wednesday, that ratio pops up again because Jim's like, you got to watch this guy. You got to watch this guy. You
don't have to. I mean, you're not covering wide receivers in this channel anymore. Nobody's going to know.
I know. But it's always like, oh, man, it sounds like such a great guy.
Have you watched Zachariah Branch yet?
I have watched Zachariah Branch. He was wide receiver 11 for me.
Have you watched Skylar Bell from UConn?
I've got him on my watch list, Skylar Bell.
Okay.
So he's already on the list.
Brennan Thompson or Malik Benson?
Who?
Brennan Thompson or Malik Benson?
Neither of them. I've heard both names. I've got neither of them on my watch list.
I got to watch Benson. That's Randall's boy.
I was like, you're giving me guys you haven't even watched? What are we doing here? Randall's going to have watched like 150 wide receivers in this whole friggin' draft class.
Yeah.
So have you watched CJ Daniels from Miami?
No, I haven't even I've heard like very little buzz on CJ Daniels.
So I think I believe he's 24. Ooh. So he's an older prospect.
I don't love that for a wide receiver.
I would say it's a day 2 tape with a day 3 age.
I understand that.
And then I'm looking. So Owen mentioned Brennan Thompson. Owen mentioned Malik Benson. Bryce Lance is now being mocked in round 3 by people that come on the Draft Professor as guests. And they're mocking Bryce Lance over Antonio Williams.
Oh, that hurts.
No.
So I've got Antonio Williams with a late day 2 grade. My 24 film from Bryce Lance. I'm sorry. I always do this on this freaking channel. Antonio Williams with a late round 2 grade. And I've got Bryce Lance with a late round 3 grade. But I haven't watched any of his film from this year yet.
Fair.
So I think the selling point on Lance is he's going to be able to play X. So if somebody's in a situation where they're in a mock draft and they need an X wide receiver, I think Bryce Lance is the next one on the list. I don't know that Antonio Williams is everybody's cup of tea.
He's not. He's not going to be an X for a team. Like he won't be. And I can kind of see that, but not at the point of like, I don't know. It's just it's tough to see. Maybe I'm looking for I'm looking at the combine numbers right now, like 4.34, 41.5-inch vert, 7 for the 3 cone. And I talked about him on like the Cheesehead TV channel where it was like this dude tested exactly how you wanted him to.
So I'm gonna give you one, but I gotta look up some.
My boy Boo.
My boy Blue.
Okay, so there is a wide receiver, Newt. I'm making sure. So I'm gonna give the height weight. So he's 6'1", 224, and he wears
I
the
like
number
that.
34.
Love it. Love that. Who? I don't even know who this is.
You don't know who it is?
No, this is amazing.
6'1", 234,
224.
224.
69 catches, 872 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Oh
First
my
round grade. Already on it, just for the number.
It's
Who is this?
Joshua Cameron from Baylor.
Oh, I've heard.
Interesting.
Josh Cameron balled out at the Senior Bowl.
Yes, he
was
did.
so much fun to watch.
So this is I think he's just everybody's favorite date. Like, if you haven't drafted a wide receiver by round 5 or 6 and you need one, he's gonna be able to play teams. He's gonna be able to return kicks for you.
Jim, what's with you and the Baylor kids this year?
Well, they had
Love
Sawyer
Sawyer
Robertson,
Robertson.
so I've been paying
Oh.
attention to him all year.
Ugh. Sawyer
Robertson, Trigg. You were high on Trigg before the season.
Yep. They have a running back that you guys didn't mention.
I used to like them. Oh, who was the D
Devolian
lineman? He was on the
Barnes,
Vikings
I
for
believe.
forever.
Yep.
There was
So-
a Baylor D lineman on the Vikings. I loved him.
Yeah, so Newt, I think that would kind of close out the list of receivers. And Cameron's not going to grade anywhere near like where the Lewis Bonds and the
No.
Bryce Lances do, but he's a wide receiver that wears number 34. So, that makes Ryan Sparks uncomfortable.
He was so much fun at the Senior Bowl where I'd love to like just put eyes on him out of respect for that. And I'm reading it right now. Like, yeah, 6'1", 220, 33 and an 1/8-inch arms, over 10-inch hands. Like I love that. And he's
Getting drafted.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it would behoove me to have a wide receiver board. I think he would actually make it
Is a big
20.
word.
He would make it 20 wide receivers that I watch, which I should watch 20. So
Cool. Well, we have been going for a while. Newt,
We
you want
have.
to let everybody know about the Cheesehead TV guide and all the other great things that you do.
Cheesehead TV draft guide dropping April 2nd for anyone out there that is looking to invest in a draft guide for this upcoming draft season. You are staring at 2 of the writers for that if you're looking at the screen currently. Beyond that, I have been doing a ton of stuff with Cheesehead TV with their podcast for the draft cycle that is very Packer specific. I don't know if you've been able to tell that I'm a Packer fan or not, but I do that. A lot of those come out over the weekend and throughout the week for some of the shorter clips. And I just released my first big board a little bit over a week ago, kind of getting more into the overall draft world in terms of like first round mocks, top 50s and 100s, and those sort of things that I post on Zero Tech. But realistically, you can find all of this if you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at NFL Draft _Weston.
Oh,
Yeah, so you can also find me over at Cheesehead TV. Now, just because I'm part of it, the number 1 draft production there over at that you can physically read. Not
Damn
this,
straight.
This is irrelevant right now. You have no idea how weird it was for me to write 20 different ways of how offensive linemen fit the Packers as a Bills fan.
I had to write it for a defensive lineman.
Yeah, but you're a Packers fan. You should know that how they fit with
I
the
mean,
Packers.
yeah, that's true.
I took like
Just
the 5
talk about
things that
their-
we mentioned.
Just talk about their athleticism. That's all you have to do.
That's all I did.
Just talk about, this guy's an athlete. The Packers will like him. He's got
He's
good
got
length.
positional versatility and he's an athlete.
Yep.
But I wrote the interior offensive line section for that again. Newt said it was coming out April 2nd, so go check that out when you can. As well as you can find me on Twitter, where we're all actively tagging at New Weston on my most recent tweet. You can find my Twitter at Weekly Huddle. Go over there and start tagging him in the replies to that. And that can also show you whenever I post things on YouTube, I will be tweeting it out there as well over at YouTube at Weekly Huddle.
yeah. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to Owen and Newt. This show is a lot of fun. At this time of year where we're just, covering the draft the way that you guys want to do it, you guys have a lot of fun with each other. Glad I can just be a part of it. It's a lot of fun. Also want to remind everybody watching that we have Epic Mock 26, April 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's a 32 podcaster mock draft. You'll see Owen being the general manager for the Bills. He'll be on Jerry Ostrowski's Overreaction Buffalo podcast. He'll be on Randall Slifer's Do Champions podcast, making all the picks for the Bills. You will see Newt on the sidelines for Epic Mock. And it's Jake that has the Packers War Room. So, maybe Newt stops by and tells Jake how he's screwing everything up in the chat. But
Jake knows
that's
what's
the
up.
way.
Jake knows what's up.
Yeah. But ironically, Packers draft professors outnumber Bills draft professors. It's almost like 2-1. So we gotta we have to step up our game.
Both.
So for Newt, Owen, myself, and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your Wednesday night. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow. Good night, everybody.